Good. We have 5 women here to do the filming for the speech. Here you go.
Where is son? Right here?
You recording me?
Oh.
Okay. Today is 9/4/2014, and we're doing a speech about women in the church. Every time we go to church, we always notice that there are more women than men, right?
Yes.
So you would think that a church that has more women than men should have a woman what? Preaching. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well,
You don't,
I don't
think
think so.
Well, most of the time, big churches always have a woman preaching for whatever reason. If you look at the speech by Thomas Long for Century Christian, according to that survey, there are only 39% of men in a congregation. Any reader who reads this document should consider that successful in the church world usually means churches that are 1,500 members or larger. If a ministry has a large number of congregants, it is safe to assume that a woman is a part of the ministry team. The roles of prominent women play in biblical times are seen as the woman at the well who was able to lead her whole city to Jesus. Mm-hmm. Jesus used her to go and get people in the city to come to him. So it is seen that women have a great role to play in any church. They are great speakers, they are great ministers to other women, and that is an opportunity for women to play a role in the Bible or in the church. In the book of Matthew, 2 women were chosen to minister about the resurrection. These were Mary and Mary, the mother of Jesus. Most mega churches have 1,500 more or more congregants. Women are classified as pastors, worship leaders, or speakers in this church. The Potter's House in Dallas, Texas has 4 women on the board of directors. It is a church of 30,000 members, and it averages 16,000 congregants on any given Sunday. Lakewood Church has a membership of 38,000 with an average attendance of 15,000 at their service. There are 4 women on that board. So it's not merely coincidence that huge churches have women on the board of directors. Jesus has a blueprint for growing a prosperous church by using women. I attended a service probably 6 years ago where a woman spoke, and she touched the lives of a lot of men at a men's conference because of the way she spoke. Women can minister to certain needs that a man cannot. Paul once said that he didn't like for women to preach at the church, but that is not true. That is inaccurate interpretation of what he was saying. He was saying that God has called a man to be the pastor and the leader, but women have a role to play in the church also. An article in the Christian Century suggests that 40% of women will step into the ministry team by 4 or 5 years from now, making them the largest group of women ever to come out of seminaries to become ministers. All audience members should seek to have their race and gender represented in the church that they attend. Now, do we have any questions from the audience? Sure.
I would like to know, I heard you make the statement that do we believe, not believe, but there are women that are in the church. I've been in church, I'm 57 years old, born and raised in church, never seen a female minister. But like you say, a couple of years ago they can become great speakers. They don't call themselves reverend or brother. They just say, we have sister, whatever, visiting us today. But I'm a Baptist. It shouldn't matter, non-denomination or whatever. Mostly in the non-denomination church, as like in the Hispanic church, the white churches, you do not see a female minister. And I know lately, a couple years ago, into the Baptist generation or whatever, some churches do not even allow them to come to the podium, you know, as a female minister. So is that listed into the Bible? I heard you make a statement about women were great speakers or whatever, but they wasn't acknowledged as a minister?
Well, when you see Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, they were told to go tell the disciples that Jesus had resurrected. When we go to church, when I minister, for example, I tell people that Jesus overcame death, Jesus overcame the grave, and that is ministering. That's called spreading the good news. That's giving the gospel. Well, when those women were told to go and tell people that Jesus had resurrected, they were ministering.
Okay.
They were telling men that Jesus has gotten up out of the grave and is now alive. So women were allowed, according to what we have in the Bible, to preach to men, but we never were able, you know, we sometimes belittled that. But women are able to tell anybody about the goodness of God. You do that every day. If you say, hey, look, I woke up, Jesus is good. Well, you are ministering. That person that you tell that to, they may be like, oh, I was finna, you know, just, I was so depressed until you told me that. That is what we call ministering.
Yes. Okay.
Any other questions?
Or comments?
I have a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
I believe in God, you know, and everything, Jesus Christ. My dad, he's a good preacher. I don't go to church. I can't go to church to do the work or whatever, but he told me that women places, like, you know, not to be, you know, in church with all the noise and all, they just
To be silent?
Yes.
Okay. The scripture that they refer to when they talk about a woman should keep silent, Paul says, I suffer a woman not to teach. I suffer her to be silent. That was something that Paul said. It is not something that Paul addressed everybody or every other church to do. He just said that was what he did. You can be in the church and they say, okay, the pastor say, I want to do all the teaching and all the preaching. Well, that's his right. But if another minister says, well, I would rather a woman give the word, I'd rather a woman open up with prayer, that's not wrong, because Paul didn't say, every church y'all need to follow what I'm saying. He only said, this is what I do.
Okay.
Next question.
I mean, this is interesting because if you don't know, you don't know. You got different, like I say, denominations. Some say this, some say this. Is that in the New Testament or the Old Testament?
In the New Testament, women you see play a larger role because Jesus ministered to women a lot. You know, they were, if you notice about Jesus, he ministered to the poor. He talked to women, which were, you know, when he talked with the woman at the well, that was considered taboo because women was not supposed to be seen with men out in public like that. But he broke the mold. In the Old Testament, you see nothing but men priests, nothing but men workers. But in the New Testament, you see women being around Jesus, being in the congregation. So that means that everybody can be involved with the working of the church. Is it?
I have a comment.
Okay, you got it.
Well, I'm looking at, I'm thinking about how in the Old Testament, how God used Deborah as a judge when there was no judge. He raised up a woman to be a judge over his people. So do you think God used that instance well, not only just Deborah, but he used Esther to lead out and save his people. So do you feel that those two women in the Old Testament can be used as examples for today's time, that God can use a woman when there is not a man, you know, there present?
Let me say this about Deborah and about Esther. They were not considered priests. They did not work in the temple. When you're talking about a judge, you're talking about an official. But when you're talking about the church as a whole, when you're talking about the temple, men did all the sacrifices. Men worked with the instruments. Men were all over the temple, but the women did not play a large role in the church and the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, we see him with women, talking to women, ministering to women, seeing women minister to others. Even when he was on the cross, women were the first ones to come to the cross. They came with the sponge. They came and ministered to him, which we mean ministering to his physical ailments. But we do the same thing when we preach to people. We minister to them. We serve them. So women can now come into the forefront. Yeah, you still have a pastor that is over the church, but you have women that serve in roles as ministers, evangelists, board members. They are allowed to work more extensively in the temple now.
Well, that makes sense because I'm gonna say this, and I'm finished. You can on the reality side, just like jobs today. There were times that women could not even work with men. Now, women can work just as well as men. So that makes sense what you're saying.
And when a woman talks to another woman, there are things that she might be more comfortable talking to another woman about than talking about with a man.
Exactly.
A man may not understand what a woman is suffering through. Or he can understand it, but when he tries to talk to her, she sees him as a man. He's a man trying to talk to me about other issues that I'm not comfortable, being open with a man. But a woman, they get together, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're going through. And so we need to see more women taking a step forward in the church because, to be honest with you, the church consists of what? Mostly women. All right, well, this is the closing of our speech. I thank all the audience for participating. God bless you and good night.